In the crypto world, a huge shift is happening. Private blockchains are on their way to dominate the industry, and big players like BlackRock and the largest financial institutions are preparing to launch their own private networks. And every time this news comes out, people panic and ask the same question. Where does XRP fit into all of this? Over the next few years, we're going to see private chains explode across the financial world, and many investors worry that XRP won't even be needed anymore. But that fear comes from misunderstanding the bigger picture. In this video, we're going to break that narrative down completely because the only way to be a confident XRP investor is to actually understand what you're holding. And this narrative, private chains replacing XRP, is going to be one of the biggest sources of confusion in the coming years. So today we're getting ahead of it. Before we dive in, a quick thank you to everyone who supports these videos. And if you ever plan to buy XRP, check out my favorite exchange, Uphold, linked below. Now let's get straight to the heart of the topic. First, we have to answer something simple. What is a private blockchain? Because when people see headlines that BlackRock or some massive bank is launching a private chain, they jump to the conclusion that XRP becomes useless. The truth is the exact opposite. Private chains and public chains don't replace each other, they depend on each other. And to understand this, you need to understand how the internet evolved. Think about the internet. We have the public web, which all of us use every day, but corporations also have private networks, private data centers where sensitive information stays locked away. If you're a giant company, some information must be public, but a lot of it must stay private. The public internet didn't remove the need for private networks, it actually increased it. And blockchain is heading in the same direction. Financial giants will absolutely build their own private chains because they're faster, more efficient, and far better than the outdated systems they use today. But that does not mean these private chains can replace public networks like the XRP ledger. They can't, and they never will. XRP runs on a decentralized public chain. It's neutral, censorship resistant, and controlled by no single authority, and that is something a private blockchain can never replicate. In the world we're heading into, a world with less trust, more monitoring, and more weaponized financial tools, having a neutral public asset that no single party controls is going to be more important than ever. Some transactions need to be private and internal, but many others need to be executed on a public, decentralized network. And that's exactly where XRP thrives. Imagine a corporation moving money internally. That doesn't need to be public. It makes perfect sense to use a private chain for that. But when money moves across borders, when liquidity needs to be sourced instantly, when value needs to move between different institutions that do not trust each other, a private chain cannot provide the neutrality, transparency, or global liquidity that a public chain can. That's why public liquidity is so powerful. It's open, deep, international, and permissionless. That is something no private chain can match. And here's where people make a huge mistake. They think that if BlackRock launches a private chain, every other institution will just join BlackRock's system, but that's ridiculous. Every major institution is a competitor. Banks don't want to rely on their biggest rival's infrastructure. This is exactly why David Schwartz said something powerful. When given the choice between using a system controlled by their biggest competitor or choosing a neutral system controlled by no one, people will choose no boss. That's why public chains like the XRP ledger are essential. Private chains also do not connect well with each other. They're siloed, isolated. They don't naturally share liquidity, but public chains do. And just like the public internet spreads information globally, public decentralized chains will move value globally. The more private chains there are, the more valuable the public decentralized layer becomes because it's the bridge between all of them. This is exactly what happened with the internet. Public networks created the need for more private networks, and more private networks increased the need for public communication rails. They grew together. And that is exactly what will happen with public and private blockchains. It's not one or the other, they rise together. A lot of investors were surprised that financial institutions weren't ready to adopt blockchain immediately. Some lacked regulation, some lacked technical infrastructure, and many needed private chains as a stepping stone before connecting to public decentralized rails. But make no mistake, the fact that these institutions are building anything blockchain related, private or public, is the strongest validation of this entire industry. It proves they know where the world is going. Would you rather see banks saying blockchain is useless or banks saying they need blockchain everywhere in their systems? Even their private blockchain experiments prove the technology is the future. BlackRock themselves said it clearly, private chains are useful, but the real value is in public, decentralized networks. And that's because only public networks can provide global, neutral liquidity. Only public networks can move value with no counterparty. Only public networks create assets that anyone can use instantly, anywhere in the world. Private chains can never do that. They can improve internal systems, but they cannot replace decentralized value networks. They're part of the ecosystem, not the replacement. What we're witnessing is a revolution in how value moves. Just like the internet revolutionized how information moves, this shift requires infrastructure upgrades everywhere. It requires both private and public rails, and nothing about private blockchains harms XRP. In fact, private chains will accelerate the need for public chains because once value needs to leave a private silo, it must enter a public decentralized highway. That's where XRP shines. The holy grail of this new world is an asset that anyone on Earth can use instantly, without permission, without a counterparty, and without relying on any corporation. That is what cryptocurrencies bring. That is what XRP represents. No private chain can offer that. And no private chain will ever replace that. Private blockchains are coming. But all they will do is push more institutions toward the public decentralized networks that actually move global value. And in that future, XRP isn't just safe, it's essential.